So Minions and Monsters was directed by Pierre Coffin and stars him, who voices all the minions in this movie. Also features Jeff Bridges, Jesse Eisenberg, Allison Janney, Christoph Waltz, Zoe Deutsch. A whole bunch of actors appear in this movie, and taking place with a different group of minions than the ones that are following Gru so many years later. It's about a group of minions that wind up falling into Hollywood and wind up getting into a bunch of Hollywood shenanigans, and some of them want to try to make their own monster movie. So when I first heard that there was another Minions movie, I immediately groaned. As far as the Despicable Me franchise goes, I like 1 and 2. Haven't really liked anything else outside of that. Despicable Me 3 and 4, I think were subpar. Minions, I thought was kind of bland. Minions Rise of Gru was a little bit better than I expected, but still not great. And I was not looking forward to this until I saw what this movie was about, and that was the fact that these Minions were making a movie and is going to feature a lot of these old Hollywood references and such. So that kind of interested me as like, okay, this looks like a different change of pace for the Minions and such. And so I saw this movie, and yeah, I would say it's definitely better than I expected. Is this movie great? Well, not in my opinion, but I think there's a lot of this movie that does work, and I think this movie is a lot better than I expected. It's like, if this is the direction that the Despicable Me franchise is going to go, I'd be okay with it, because at least it's somewhat different than what we're already getting. So, let's start with what I do like about this movie. First off, the jokes in this movie, dare I say, actually made me laugh. A lot of the stuff in the other Minions movie, Despicable Me movies, kind of just made me groan by the most recent movies and such. And this one actually has some very funny moments. Some moments where it's like laughing out loud, whether it's like a sight gag or also some line of dialogue that I thought was pretty funny. Also, I do like a lot of the callbacks to a bunch of like old Hollywood stuff. You kind of see like not just movies and such, which like you kind of figured that they would parody a bunch of like classic movies, and they do. Maybe some that kind of go over people's heads, but I definitely kind of got it being the film buff that I am. But also kind of goes into the history of Hollywood, which I thought was kind of interesting. Kind of reminded me of a plot thread from The Artist and such, where it's like, I won't spoil it, but if you know that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And also, I do like with this movie that they're not relying on the crazy shenanigans of the Minions as much, which, don't get me wrong, they do get into some shenanigans, but that's not the main point of the movie. It actually is trying to make this movie and such, and actually trying to build characters and such. Like, I actually kind of appreciated that, other than Minions doing stupid shit. Also, the voice actors, for the most part, do an okay job. Well, some of the ones that really stood out to me, first off, Jesse Eisenberg. I didn't expect Jesse Eisenberg to be really good in this movie, but he was surprisingly good. His character doesn't appear until, I would say, about halfway through this movie, but I thought his character completely stole the movie. He was actually the funniest. Also, Jeff Bridges is also really good, kind of playing two roles as these two brothers, which are like, he's actually really good playing both brothers. And I'd be curious to see if in the studio he was kind of like going back and forth, or if he was just doing them like just one at a time. Because if he was going back and forth those characters, I feel like that would be more impressive. The other voice actors, unfortunately, don't really do too much. Christoph Waltz, okay. Allison Janney, she's the narrator, which kind of comes in and out, which I'll kind of get into later. Zoe Deutsch, I felt like her character it could have been voiced by anybody. And also the animation itself is kind of good, and like even the bad Despicable Me movies and the Minion movies, the animation is at least decent. And I can at least say the animation is really good in this one. There's some creativity with some of the monsters in this movie that I thought was really cool. And also, there are some fun surprises here and there. Like, you kind of see some things. Again, if you're a film buff like me, you can kind of pick up out a lot of things in this movie. Like, okay, I saw some things in the background that maybe some people wouldn't understand and such. And I kind of did like that. And there are some lines of dialogue that are really clever. Not necessarily clever, but it's like kind of funny in retrospect. Like, there's one point in the movie where one of the executives goes, "Hey, what's up with these yellow guys? Like, let's put them in every scene in the movie." It's like, I'm pretty sure that's how they pitched all these Minion movies at this point. But, oh well. There are definitely some fun moments. It's like, again, I didn't hate myself while watching this movie. Unlike something like, say, Despicable Me 4, which I was like, I just want this movie over with. This one I was like, okay, it's cute enough. But, let's talk about some things I don't like about this movie. First off, not every joke lands. Like, there are some jokes that are funny. Don't get me wrong, I did laugh more than I expected to with this movie. But there's some jokes that aren't painful, they're just not that funny. And I will say, I think the movie does slow down a little bit, primarily in the second act, where it's like kind of setting things up, and it's like, it kind of goes into some cliches that are kind of predictable and such, but I felt like they didn't need that necessarily. And also, there's not enough monsters in this movie, if I'm being honest. For a movie called Minions and Monsters, I think I got about half that. Like, I definitely got a lot of minions in this movie. Not enough monsters. I think there's like 4 monsters in the entire movie. And there's one that's like really creative. The other two are fine, and there's one other monster you kind of see in the trailers, a small green guy. Not really that interesting. And again, some of the other voice actors I found to be kind of lackluster. Not necessarily bad, but I felt like their characters could have been played by anyone. Like Allison Janney could have been played by anyone. Christoph Waltz could have been played by anyone. Trey Parker, who I forgot he voiced the villain in Despicable Me 3, and yet he's voicing another character in this movie. It's like, did we not? Did you not realize that, or did you just forget? Also, there's a whole narration that I felt like didn't entirely work for this movie. Like the way it's set up is like kind of funny and such, but they kind of sprinkle it once in the movie, and then it appears towards the end of the movie. I felt like it was kind of pointless overall. Like at least the first scene, it's like okay, you're kind of setting it up, and by the end, it's like okay, so that's the end of the story and such. But like, there's a moment in the movie where it's like it didn't need that moment. It's like I felt like it was just a moment for people who are making the movie to say, "Hey, remember, we're narrating this story," rather than just letting your audience kind of be smart for a moment and be like, "Oh, right, this was being narrated and such." But overall, Minions and Monsters, I actually didn't mind it as much as I expected to. I kind of was expecting to hate this movie, but I kind of said, you know, this movie isn't bad. It's fine. It's fun enough. I think it's the best of the Minions movie, and probably the best Despicable Me movie since Despicable Me 2. So, I don't know about that. Maybe Despicable Me 3 is maybe on the same level as Despicable Me 3, but I definitely like this more than 4. So, I thought all the voice actors, well, not as, all, I thought some of the voice actors did a pretty good job. I thought it actually had some funny moments. There are callbacks to, like, older Hollywood movies that I kind of thought was interesting and funny. And also, it didn't rely on minion crap throughout this entire movie where it's like, it wasn't like full-blown minions just doing dumb things and people reacting and such. Some of the voice actors do an alright job. The animation is decent, and I say there are some fun moments, but I wish there were more monsters in this movie. I wish the narration was a little bit more focused, and also, I felt like it did slow down a little bit, and again, not every joke landed. But would I recommend this movie? In a sense, it's different enough that I would kind of recommend it, but I don't know if I could say you should go see this movie right away. I will give Minions and Monsters 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. So, how would you rank all the Despicable Me and Minion movies? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.